Welcome, Samir. Such a pleasure to welcome you in the context of this 20 years of venture leaders. Can you imagine? Already 20 years going around the globe with brilliant entrepreneurs like you. So starting this discussion, I just wanted to have from you a brief introduction. You're the co-founder and the CEO of HAYA Therapeutics. You were with us back in 2018. I mean, over 8 years now that we were together in Boston in the Venture Leaders Life Science. And so just if you give us a brief overview around HAYA Therapeutics and yourself.
Yes, sure. Thank you so much, Jordi. It's great to be on this interview with you. I have great memories of Venture Leaders in 2018 in Boston. So at that time, HAYA was really just ideation phase. There was no company. It was a concept. And it was a concept really anchored on unlocking a new area of biology, the so-called dark genome, which is the regions of your DNA that have been very mysterious for the last 20 years that do not make proteins. And what HAYA has been doing, really catalyzed initially by that exposure we got during Venture Leaders, is unlocking this biology and developing really a next generation of RNA medicines that allow us to make some of the large common and chronic diseases like heart failure truly tractable in a safe, accessible, needed, and effective way. And so that's what we do, and really looking forward to the rest of the discussion.
I want to go back exactly 2018. You are there, and this is a lot of learnings for you and for many of the people around us, the early stage entrepreneurs. We go international, and for you it was many different views. I mean, these questions of sort of scaling, sort of growing internationally, talking different cultures, different perspective, investors, partners. Can you plunge back and recall what were your learnings at the time? What were the different views and how you came across making your own decisions and deciding, okay, that's how I will move HAYA forward. So that's what I would like to come back, really this international first step, scaling, exposure.
Absolutely. So for us, obviously, we were trying to translate and really do drug discovery and drug development in a very, very new pioneering space that had really incredible opportunities. So we were building a platform that, if we could prove it out through clinical translation, really changes how we think about medicine, how we think about drug discovery, drug development, and outcomes for common and chronic diseases. So we were very intentional, and the Venture Leaders Showcase really was perfect for us in terms of timing, because we were very intentional that this is a platform that has global potential and has global reach in terms of both access to capital, strategy, and access to talent. So in order to translate this type of first in biology approach to the clinic, we needed very different sources and types of expertise, capital, risk appetite, strategic thinking, and vision. And obviously Venture Leaders 2018 was in Boston, which I kind of, after that experience, that was my first trip actually ever to Boston and Cambridge. And, when I came back, I was saying to everybody, this is like the Disneyland of biotech. The concentration, the proximity of talent, institutions, investors, strategics within such a small ecosystem was just transformational about how we thought about the next steps in architecting HAYA's vision, building the organization, founding the organization, and even what type and scale of investors we would like to bring into the organization was very much influenced by that first trip we had to Boston, where we've now spent a lot of time. Our lead investor, actually, from the seed round, we met during the Venture Leaders trip in Boston.
So that was great foundations to set. What were your perspective? I mean, Switzerland, US, obviously architecting a new perspective. What were the components of that new perspective?
So I think, first of all, there was the incremental vision versus step change vision that we saw was different between the different stakeholders that we were exposed to. And I don't want to put this on Switzerland. I would say this is more of a European theme than what we experienced in the US. And the capital requirements to really make an impact in a parallel way rather than in a sequential way. So our experience with European investors was, oh, this is new, this potentially is transformative, but let's take it step by step. Let's raise a little bit of money now. Let's de-risk this first question, and then let's think about raising the next financing for the second question and the third question. Whereas on the US side, there was much more a larger vision, which is let's resource this technology, this platform, to rapidly deliver in parallel these proof points and create the architecture to scale the biology to a point at which you can accelerate into clinic, but also create optionality from a partnering side with the right type of strategic partners. That was a major difference that I saw in those early days, was just in terms of the vision, in terms of how to architect the financing and the strategy around business development and corporate strategy for the company.
I would like to do a quick fast forward and
Yep.
maybe come to today, and today, if you want to give me first a brief update, where do you stand? Where is the company?
Yeah.
The key challenge, and come back to this international scaling across the way. You had to build teams, you had to work across these geographies, align your investors again, and I think you onboarded quite a few, and both institutional and strategic. There was a major deal announced last year with Eli Lilly, so I think I would love to actually hear you status of the company and sort of the learnings you took, again, going global today in building these teams, in dealing with investors, and today the status of where your company stands and what is the lessons you take around that.
Yeah, sure. So, as of today, quite recently, actually, we are now a clinical stage company. So we've achieved really quite a foundational milestone for the history of HAYA.
Congratulations, I have to say it.
Yeah, thank you. So obviously taking first in, people in our industry, in biotech, pharma, talk about first in class and differentiation. We're not first in class, we're first in biology. So we've literally taken a completely new biological therapeutic hypothesis and target class from ideation discovery through to clinical translation over the last 4 years. And that's obviously a huge moment for the organization. And that has been enabled by our global perspective. So we have a big team in Lausanne. We're still headquartered, Swiss company, but we have an equally sized team in San Diego. And we've really built an organization cross-functionally that integrates what I would say are the strengths of those different ecosystems. So you have different talent profiles and talent experience, whether it's early research through development to clinical translation, operations and business development across these different geographies. And that's really been central to our operating model, which is let's take what's fantastic about the Swiss ecosystem. Let's take what's fantastic about the US ecosystem, and we're in San Diego, which is really a global center for RNA therapeutics, which is our modality. And let's find a way to integrate, operate, and use those advantages to execute. So key learnings is about the global piece. I think being global very early, that was very intentional for HAYA. As you remember, Jordi, we were always going to be a global company. Even as a startup with 5 employees, we already started going global. And being global actually, it forces you to have a very execution-focused operating model that's very aligned, a lot of context, so lots of context over control, highly aligned, not very coupled. And that operating model has allowed us to progress through a number of critical milestones, including our financing milestones. We obviously have been able to now really start to validate the front end of our approach, the platform, with this very significant large collaboration with Eli Lilly in the obesity space. But most importantly is preserving and advancing the core, which is our own asset and our own programs, which are now translating into clinical trials. So very exciting time for the organization.
Quite amazing to be able to be global from day one. That's a lesson we hear from many of our venture leaders. Actually, it's like it's so important to embed this into the DNA of the company. And I just wanted to have your final word for this next generation in a world today that is moving very fast. They still have to go global in a very moving environment. What would be your top 2, maximum 3 bullet points that you would like to share, saying, hey, if I want to leave you with something, specifically in the execution, what would it be?
Yeah, I think proximity matters. So ecosystems are more than just infrastructure, they're strategic, and proximity matters within those ecosystems. It's not enough just to be having lots of Zoom calls and visiting these locations. I think having real operational, cultural footprint that's integrated within the organization matters. So I think that would be my biggest advice. We moved to San Diego very early. We have both sites, and that really has helped our operating model and some of the progress that we have made. And think about this before you think the value will be created. So I think very often I see and hear folks thinking about global operations because of a stage of development or access to different investors. I would say operationalize that global vision before you need the investors, before you need to maybe operate in that geography. So proximity and timing of integrating into the ecosystems would be my two biggest pieces of advice.
Fantastic, and definitely very precious, very valuable. Thank you again, Samir, for taking the time. And let's make sure that the HAYA story continues as successful. The expected impact and already the advancement done are fantastic. And also congrats to you, to the whole team. We know that behind every innovation, there are entrepreneurs, teams supporting, and nothing happens without the people. So congrats all of you. Pass our congrats to the team, and we look forward seeing you, if possible, on 24th, which is the anniversary, or at any other occasion. Samir, thank you very much.
Thank you, Jordi. Much appreciated.